I'm your host, Rob Carbone. This is BD4.
Barrett, some shake is big. Hits for three. Tantalizing the crowd was Barrett. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye. Anthony for three. That one goes down. Gotta put four fingers up when Torres comes to the plate. The wall. See ya.
All right. So, 194. Hopping on for a quick episode tonight. Nothing really. Hopefully, I always say that and I end up going long. But I just got done watching the Knicks, the New York Knicks, open up their preseason game 1. And I thought it was whatever. I thought it was solid. It was okay. But it's kind of hard to take anything away from game 1 of the preseason at that. But it was a very Tom Thibodeau. By the way, I finally figured it out. So when you pronounce his entire name, it is TH. It's Thibodeau. But when you give him the nickname, it's Tibbs. So I finally figured it out because they were saying it on the broadcast tonight, and I figured I was able to figure out the distinction. So you pronounce the TH when you say his entire name, but when you fucking say his nickname, you just pronounce the T. So it's Thibodeau and Tibbs. So there you go. Hopefully we can remember this. Am I the only one who's had issues with that? But I thought, I thought it was a very Tom Thibodeau game. He went with the veterans out of the gate. Very yuck lineup to surround RJ with, floor shrinkers and guys who play half-court games. But the Knicks played hard defense. The youths ended up playing well in the end. And, despite the offense looking very similar, the ball did swing around a lot, which was good. But in terms of the shooting, it was pretty poor. But the Knicks did play hard D, and the big player of the night for the Knicks was Obi Toppin, who fucking surprised many. But it wasn't that impressive to me because I know he's capable of doing that. Goes out there and pours in 11 points with 7 rebounds in 20 minutes. And we're gonna get into that. That's for another episode. This is Yankees Tonight. The Knicks, we're going to talk about the Knicks. We actually just wrote our first blog of the season on the Knicks. So our Game 1 preseason recap is out. So go to my website, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com for that. And go to the Knicks section of the blog. And you can see I broke it down, gave my analysis on preseason Game 1 for the Knicks against the Pistons. So look at that. But if you don't know this, we are going to be, again, heavy on the Knicks starting tonight. We have nightly recaps in the blog, and then we will have podcasts out on the Knicks every 2 games. So every 1 game, we have a nightly recap, and then every 2 games, we will have an episode as well. So that's including the postseason. So there's 4 postseason games. Preseason. So there's 4 preseason Knicks games. That means we'll have 4 recaps in the blog and 2 podcast episodes. So Sunday is their next preseason game, so I will have the blog out, writing down my breakdown of the game, and as well as that, the same night I will be recording the podcast on the first 2 preseason games. So now that is said, Yankees for 194. That's what we're going to be talking about. A little bit of, we're going to touch on what happened on YES Hot Stove the other night. Because some things were said and some interesting shit. You take it as it may be, but fucking, it was something I didn't watch the entire thing. I saw some clips of it and I read about it, but I mean, we're going to discuss it nonetheless. So, and here's the thing. I was watching the Michael K show that I was watching earlier today, and today I mean a Friday, earlier Friday night, December 11th, as I speak. But yeah, earlier tonight, Friday, I was watching the Michael K show. They were having a very interesting discussion because I always think about this. All right, I'm a victim to it. I'm one of them. But they were talking about when you talk about your favorite sports team, are you allowed to say we as opposed to they? Right? So for example, if the Yankees are playing and the Yankees lose, I'm most likely going to say we suck, right? Or if we win, hey, we played well. Are you allowed to do that? Or as a fan, not affiliated with the organization, professionally, should you only use the word they? They suck, they played well, right? That was an interesting topic I thought they brought up. And somebody brought up a good point. I forget, somebody, they were quoting somebody. Was it Mike Greenberg, I think, who said, they were talking about him, who quoted earlier, saying, for college it's different. If you're an alumni of that school, you use the term we. But for a professional team, if you're going to use the word we, they were saying that you have to use it 100% of the time. You can't use it, with a bias. You have to use it when you win. You have to use it when you lose. You can't only use it when things are going well. I thought that was pretty funny, but I'm one who, I kind of mix it up. I don't really have a consistency, I've noticed. Sometimes I'll use the term they, sometimes we. But that's one thing I always found funny. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I always thought that was weird. They or we. I don't know. It's weird. Obviously, you're not part of the organization, but as a fan, a lot of us just it just comes natural, I guess, to us, because we are just it's part of our lives, I don't know. It was pretty interesting. All right. So, that happened, but we're not going to talk about that tonight. We're going to go into a little bit of what Brian Cashman said on Yankees Hot Stove and what Aaron Hicks was saying on the Hot Stove, and maybe talk about some things to come. Maybe talk about some potential free agents who one guy in particular I want to talk about tonight because I read an article about this kid, and or he's more of a veteran, but and I think the Yankees should take a look at this guy. So we're going to get into that, and that'll be it. So let's head to our first break, and as soon as we get back, we will dive right into everything. All right.
Hey guys, just a quick reminder that if you haven't followed me on social media yet or subscribed to the blog or this podcast, just go to my website to do all that stuff at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect.
Yeah, so Brian Cashman, I think it was about 2 nights ago, was on the Hot Stove on YES. They asked him a couple of questions he was answering, So they asked him, obviously the one everybody wants to know is what's going on with this, the DJ LeMahieu negotiations, right? Are they going to re-sign him? Will they let him walk? And the answer he gave, your typical, bullshit Yankees PR, your new age Yankees response, right? A bunch of PR bullshit in there. He uses the word intent about 2 or 3 more times. We heard that enough in previous off seasons. So he used the word intent. He said the Yankees will, and I quote, try to re-sign him. Didn't love hearing that. Try to means they're going to be very strict with that low budget they have. But yeah, it was very, your typical tiring bullshit, politically correct, quote, used a lot of fancy terms and weird terms. Like, we're going to exhaust LeMahieu's options first. Like, stupid shit like that. I also read an article on the NY Post that was paraphrasing Cashman, and I'm going to read it right here. I have it written down here. It says on NY Post, word for word, what they have is Cashman pointed to Jordan Montgomery as a potential number 2 starter and was encouraged by what he saw from Davy Garcia following his debut. Beyond that, Cashman mentioned Clark Schmidt, Mike King, Nick Nelson, and Miguel Yajuri as other possible pieces for the rotation. I don't know about that, man. First of all, Jordan Montgomery as a potential number 2, if you've got that, you're in trouble. If you're supposed to be contending for a World Series and you're looking at Jordan Montgomery as your number 2 starter, that's not good, because this guy at the very best, is a number 3. But I think for the most part, he'll be a solid 4 or 5. He's not a number 2, bottom line. Encouraged by what he saw from Davey. Yeah, we all were. He had a very strong, rookie stint towards the end there. He looked sharp. And then to say that, Nick Nelson and Miguel Yajuri could be considered here as parts of the rotation just goes to show you how shallow this Yankee staff is at the moment and how much we need help there. We need a lot. And so that's not really promising. I hope it doesn't come down to that. I hope we can eventually spend somewhat and get some good arms in that rotation. But again, if we're trying to spend on a budget, how realistic is a Trevor Bauer? Maybe we're going to have to trade for a bigger name. I don't know. Anyways, as far as that DJ LeMahieu thing goes, again, I've said it before, but I think eventually, ultimately, DJ will re-sign here. I believe, again, 4 years maybe with an option for year 5, given $80 million across 4, $100 across 5, something like that. But let's just play along. I've been avoiding this subject. I don't want to talk about it because DJ is everything to me on this team. But if it happens, if it comes to be that LeMahieu ends up walking, and maybe Uncle Stevie from the Mets signs him. If that happens, if the Yankees were stupid enough to let him walk, I think they must. See, I'm using the word they here. They or we. I think they must go out and snag Lindor. That's the only possible. If you're losing a player of LeMahieu's caliber, right, one of the better players in the game, you have to replace him by going out and getting one of the better players in the game. Yeah, that's the way I look at it. And the only way to replace his style of hitting, right, making contact and playing good defense, you go out and get someone like Lindor, who puts the ball in play a ton, has power, can switch shit, and plays good defense. Limited to shortstop, but he's the better overall player, obviously. Younger, more talented player, at least. But that's the only way. And even then, even if that were to happen, it's gonna be a hit on the Yankees, because again, this guy's, if not the best contact hitter in the sport, is one of them. And that's gonna hurt, because the Yankees, Yankee squad like this is desperate for guys who can put the ball in play. We don't have quite enough of them, and replacing DJ with another guy who makes solid contact doesn't really give you more contact. It just neutralizes it, right? It keeps it the same. And DJ is probably, in terms of K rate, a little better than Lindor. But that's besides the point. He's a fucking great player. You don't want to lose him. So hopefully we don't get into that scenario. Oh, that would suck. Cashman also spoke about Gleyber Torres. Said he was not in good shape this past season. He came out and said that straight up. He used the second spring training as, I guess, to lighten the diss. Saying that the whole revamping of the spring training going to have to transition to a summer training and start the season late. That kind of messed with him, and that layoff there kind of got to Torres, and he kind of, I guess, didn't take it serious or whatever it was, and fucking, he wasn't in shape for the first, several months of the season, and then he finally found his groove late in the year, towards the end of the regular season and into the postseason, of course, too. So he said he wasn't in great shape, so I hope he's in better shape this next upcoming season. He also said, he also admitted that Torres is a better second baseman than he is a shortstop. Not shocking, right? Not surprising at all to any of us who watch the Yankees. He's a terrible defensive shortstop. He's very sloppy, trouble finishing off plays, loses focus out there. Just not very good. Second baseman, he's not that good either. At both positions, he will make his flashy plays. He will make some really highlight, real type of plays, but he doesn't look good anywhere on the diamond. But second is marginally better for Gleyber Torres. Aaron Hicks spoke on the hot stove, and this was encouraging, saying his elbow is still not 100%. Saying that the Yankees have asked him before how it feels. He said his arm at times, he feels it sometimes sucks, I think he was saying. So if he's saying it's still not 100% over 1 year since the Tommy John surgery, I have a feeling this contract won't end well, right? And I don't care. I don't care that it's a cheap deal. I know 70 for 7. I get it, 10 per. But I care about results, okay? And for one, this guy cannot stay on the field, okay? So, one more big injury. If this becomes a thing where he misses more time, that makes that cheap, amazing contract untradeable, right? If he's out again this year for a chunk of time, nobody's going to want him despite the contract. He's already had a very deep injury-riddled resume. That happens again, it's not going to look good, regardless of the contract. And I just don't think he's that great of a player, okay? You signed him for $770 because maybe he's just that type of guy. We got him on such a steal. No, maybe, it's one of those sayings, you get what you pay for, and he's not that good of a player, okay? Not only is he never really healthy, he's just not that good. He gives you okay production at the plate, but I think he hits too high in the order. I think he's a number 9 guy that's constantly at the top of the order. He'll get on base. He's not going to hit you the ball at a high clip. He'll walk and he'll slug occasionally. He'll hit a clutch home run. And then he plays defense, but his defense has regressed. Maybe it was due to, again, not being in shape like Torres, but it did regress in 2020. So it's not the price for me when talking about Hicks. It's just that we have, we gave him an okay player, the go-ahead. We gave him the keys to center field for the next 7 years, or what is it now, 5? So that's the thing. It's just as simple as that. I don't want an okay player like Aaron Hicks being our guy for the next several seasons. I don't buy the whole Aaron Hicks is so great. Aaron Hicks is underrated. Yankees fans love to throw that term at him. Who do Yankees fans think this guy is? And I'm going to be, criticized by the analytical, 16-year-olds on Twitter, of course, but I'm sorry, he's not that great. Baseball's more than just crunching numbers and trying to nitpick and finding a stat to bank on. He's not that good. He's a 220 hitter. He's a 370 on base guy, great, but not everything is about just getting on base. He's going to have to do more than, ground out and draw some walks, and then play defense. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry. You get what you pay for. He's an okay player. He's not a great player to me. He's an okay player who's not even healthy enough to produce at an okay rate. So yeah, that was fun. Hicks saying, I'm still not 100%. So who wants to hit the under on 120 games next season for Hicks? I'll slam that button. Yeah. Speaking of bad contracts, happy Stanton Day. I'm pretty sure today, December 11th, was the day 4 years ago that 3 years ago that Giancarlo Stanton signed with the Yankees. So that was fun. I saw a picture of him holding up the jersey, and it said Happy Stanton Day, whatever. So I think today was the day. Also, I just noticed, how ironic is that he picked number 27? I don't know if he was 27 in Miami, I forget, but it is kind of ironic how Stanton gets number 27, and we're still not winning. So, just garbage. Speaking of garbage, Nestor Cortez Jr. is back. Yes, Nasty Nestor is back. Junk baller. I saw that earlier. He put it out on Instagram. Contract details, I don't think they were announced, but he's back. I do believe he's back. so that there's some bullpen depth, I guess. Oh man. Speaking of depth, the Yankees lost a couple of guys. They lost 3 prospects in the Rule 5 draft. Right-handed pitcher Garrett Whitlock went to Boston. Right-handed pitcher Trevor Stephen went to Cleveland. And a shortstop who, many Yankees fans know, I think, Kyle Holder, went to Philadelphia. I don't know Whitlock. I may have heard of Stephen, but I know that Yankees fans remember Holder from, 2 spring trainings ago when he had a very good preseason? Or was it last year? Maybe in the first spring training of last year. I don't know. But so they lost those 3 prospects in the Rule 5 draft. Big deal. I saw an article saying that the Yankees should go for Brad Hand, and that's who I really want to get to tonight. So we're going to take a break, our last break, and when we get back, we'll talk about Brad Hand. All right.
Hey guys, just a quick reminder that if you haven't followed me on social media yet or subscribed to the blog or this podcast, just go to my website to do all that stuff at nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com/connect.
I was really surprised when I saw that Brad Hand was on the free agent market. I didn't even know he was out there. There's been no noise on him. He's a good fucking pitcher, man. He's a good pitcher. And I gotta kind of retract some of the things I've said about this pitching market. It's actually a little better than I thought. It's still not great. It's still pretty shallow, but it is better than I thought. Talking about some of the relievers the last couple of episodes that we've covered the Yankees, there are some decent guys out there. And Brad Hand is one who I think is amongst the better relievers in the game. And listen, the Yankees should at least kick some tires here. See what they can do. Left-handed pitcher. We've got quite a few of them, but, he gets the outs. 3-time All-Star. And the Yanks, just bottom line, the Yankees need trustworthy bullpen arms. And Brad Hand is consistently productive. He's very trustworthy. Since becoming a full-time reliever in 2016 with San Diego, 5 years ago, he's been very effective as a reliever. A 2.70 ERA, a 1.06 WHIP, and in 4 of the last 5 years, that ERA is under 3. 12.2 Ks per 9 since becoming a reliever, 3.0 walks per 9, but under 3 in 3 of the last 5 years in terms of his walks per 9. So, listen, man, he's good. And more recently, if you're looking at 2020, he led the MLB with 16 saves this year. He had a 2.05 ERA and a 7.7 WHIP, 0.77 WHIP to go with a 11.9 and 11.9 Ks per 9. So, dynamic pitcher, right? Very dynamic slider. That's his go-to pitch, but also a pretty precise fastball with average, pretty underwhelming velocity, but it's very precise and it has a high spin rate too, I believe. But that slider is his devastating go-to pitch. That's his best pitch by far. In on the left-handed batters, and he'll go backdoor on righties with it. So he's very good, lefty on lefty, right? He's a left-handed pitcher, very good against left-handed batters. He's almost an automatic out every time he faces a lefty. Lefties have hit under the Mendoza each of the last 4 seasons on Brad Hand. 125 this past year. He's not allowed a home run versus lefties in 2 years. Doesn't allow many home runs at all. Just 0.9 over the course of his career. 0.9 as a reliever. Just a very efficient, keep the ball in the park type of guy. Now, the one thing about that, okay, he used to be strikeout, ground out. That's obviously an analytic stream right there, right? Miss bats and keep the ball on the ground. But over the last couple of seasons, he's kind of became more of a strikeout, flyout pitcher. So that is kind of concerning. Although the home runs haven't been an issue, it is kind of concerning becoming that he's turned from a ground out guy to a fly out guy, if the Yankees are going to take him and having to have him pitch in that toy ballpark of Yankee Stadium, right? That is somewhat of a concern, right? Are those fly balls that are outs in other stadiums going to turn out to be home runs in Yankee Stadium, right? Especially if you're using him in lefty on lefty situations with the short porch out in right field. So that's something to think about. That's the one thing that might scare a lot of guys in the Yankee front office there from going after a Brad Hand. But again, he is likely going to be cheap. In a market like this, the Indians declined his 1 year, $10 million deal, his option there. They declined it. And he's projected, I was reading around, he's projected to get about 2 years, 12 to 16 million. So, for a 31-year-old in March, paying him, 6 to 8 million as a salary over the next 2 seasons, that's not bad, man. This is if you can get him for that price as he's projected to command, that's a no-brainer. Do you really want to bank on Johnny Lasagna? Do you really want to bank on Chad Green, Adam fucking Ottavino, Nick Nelson, Luis Sessa, who you just tendered? Do you really want to rely on those, group of men after your big guns, right? After Britton, after Chapman, do you want actual good pitching? Or do you want, a bunch of inconsistent, questionable, great at times, poor at other times arms out there? It's pretty much a no-brainer, right? Also, the two guys that you do rely on, Britton and Chapman, it's not like they're guaranteed to be great. Britton will be 33 this month, like 10 days. Aroldis Chapman, he keeps getting older. He's on the decline. The velocity's starting to fall a little bit. And you look at the last 2 postseasons that Aroldis Chapman has had, not pretty. He's choked the Yankees away and onto the golf course in each of those last 2 postseasons we've had. So, this super bullpen is far gone. It is far gone. We need desperate help. So are we going to cheap out, or are we going to actually try and improve that pen, which is one of the bigger issues on this team right now, the depth. Brad Hand, if you can get him for the projected contract, you fucking make that deal. You've obviously got your top priorities. You've got to get LeMahieu back. You've got to find another top-of-the-line starter to complement Garrett Cole. Do I think that's going to happen? No. I'm more confident on LeMahieu re-signing than I am anything else. I think what the Yankees are going to do is do what they've done in previous seasons, right? They're gonna re-sign LeMahieu. They're going to spend a lot of money on that. Then they'll probably try to retool the rotation with, makeshift pitchers, vets, guys on the decline, mediocre 4 ERA, middling pitchers, high 3, 4 ERA guys. That's what I think is going to happen. And I think the bullpen will, maybe they'll add a couple guys, but again, I don't know. I hope they can go after Hand because he's fucking, again, a no fucking brainer if he's actually going to get the money that they're saying, which is nothing. Fucking 2 years. $16 million. That's 8 annual value. That's nothing. So, that's pretty much it, guys. Brad Hand, talking Aaron Hicks, talking Brian Cashman, Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu. That's it. Just wanted to jump on here real quick tonight and talk about that. But I thought that was very interesting, that Brad Hand still hasn't been picked up by anybody. The whole market overall for baseball has been terrible, But I just hope that the Yankees can make some kind of move soon to benefit the team and not their wallets. So that's all we've got. Let's head to the NYK question of the day, and then we'll wrap this one up. right, so in episode 193, for our NYK question of the day, I asked you guys which pitcher leads the Yankees all-time in wins. The answer to that question is Whitey Ford with 236. Okay, that was the answer to 193. So in this episode, our NYK question of the day for episode 194, which Yankee is the only player to win both a World Series MVP and an All-Star Game MVP in the same season? Okay, so one last time. Which Yankee is the only player to win a World Series MVP and All-Star Game MVP in the same season? All right, so message me the answer on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or just comment the answer once I publish the podcast. Guys, once again, we talked about the Knicks tonight in the blog, so if you want to check that out, go do that. Fucking the New York Knicks are back, and they are 1-0 in the preseason. The Yankees remain quiet, but again, tonight we just pretty much talked about what we heard on YES Network the other night. And that's that, guys. So thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Rob Carbone, doing episode 194 of the podcast of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. This episode is brought to you by Anchor. Best way to get your podcast. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if you want to go to my website to subscribe to the podcast, to follow me on social media, to subscribe to the blog, and all that fun stuff, please do that. Go to my site, nysportstalkrc.wordpress.com. Guys, thanks so much, and I'll see you next time. All right, ciao. This podcast is sponsored by Anchor.